All right, welcome back. In this part, we'll go ahead and create the first few routes for our board. But I forgot a couple of things in the last video, so I'm just going to go through those quickly. First of all, I went into my env file that we created and added my connection to my MongoDB. I'm going to show that obviously, but I just need to remind you that you need to do that. We also have a thing in this index.html file that we need to do, and we'll add a couple of buttons, and these buttons we'll just put below the header here, so they're gonna look like this. And this is not at all important for the project, it's just so that we can go ahead and hide the user stories because they look awful. And that's why we have this function here, and we also have to collapse and expand user stories in our CSS file. So if I just go ahead and do this, you can see that we have our CSS applied, and we can go ahead and hide or show the user stories. I thought probably not, because we don't actually have the functions. Let's add those as well. Expand and collapse user stories, we need those. They will look like this, and this is not nice code by any means. You probably do this in a better way, but all this is going to do is add a couple of functions that we can use to hide and show our user stories. And again, this is not connected to the project in any way. It's just so that we can actually show and hide these. I thought, cannot do that. Console error, nice. Right. ID user story is what? Oh, nice. Oh, it works. And this is, again, once more, this is just for convenience and because it looks bad. It's convenient for us because we get all of these that we can see them instead of having a lot of user stories in the way. It also looks nicer. This would not be in the actual app, obviously, so whatever. Anyway, we are gonna go ahead from that. Let's close these HTML files and the package of JSON. We don't need those. And we're gonna go into routes and into API here. And here we have one route that's API threads board and one that's API replies board. And we're gonna start with the one that's for threads. And when we do that, we actually, well, they actually removed that. Huh. Interesting. We're missing a folder. So what we're gonna do is that we're actually gonna start with creating a new folder because we're missing one. This is gonna be called controllers, and inside the controllers we'll have one for messages, and we'll have another one for replies, I believe. Let me double check that quickly. No, threads, obviously, not replies. So switch this. Okay, so threads. We're gonna start with just adding messages. So inside of this folder, we'll add a file called index.js, and from there we'll have a module that exports. This is Node stuff, and here we'll go for require /add message, and we'll have this is an object to this require /find message. We'll require /remove message, and we'll have one more that's report message, like so. And we'll create a couple of these in this video and a couple of more in the next one, I think. Will we? Add, find, remove, or yeah, exactly. So these ones obviously translate to CRUD, really. So add is obviously post, find is get, remove is delete, and report is update. So in this one, we just go ahead and add the add and find message, and we can do that by going into let's go with the API first. So in here, we'll go ahead and have the export functions add, threads, and replies. And we want to go ahead and on board here, we'll have a .get. So, and we'll get threads controller .find underscore threads, and we'll have a .post threads controller .add thread. We'll have a .put, which is update, and threads controller as well, and it's going to be report thread, and we'll have a .delete, which is obviously remove thread. So, and none of these actually exist in this file, so we're gonna have to go ahead and import those. And to do that, we just go ahead and write const threads controller is equal to require and string, so controllers and threads. Oh, oops. Just move this. No, wait. That's right. Yeah. Right, this is threads messages. So threads and /index. Yeah, you need to do that. So, and then we'll also need a const messages controller is then equal to require / controllers messages and index. So, and then we obviously need to go ahead and add these here as well, pretty much. So we can actually copy these, do that, and then we'll just do like so, and write messages controller. So, and same thing here. We need to go ahead and update these to message. Yeah, access. So, it's important that we don't have semicolons on these, and these could actually be stacked together, obviously, but we don't need to do that, and it's easy to read like this. We have messages here. We can actually go ahead and add threads as well. Do we have that? So we'll go ahead and add an index file for that. So, and then we'll just replace these with threads. So, with that, we can actually go ahead and start creating stuff. So in controller/messages in the messages folder, we have this index file, and we're requiring files here that don't actually exist. And they don't exist because we haven't created them. So if we go ahead and create a file called findMessage.js, in here we're gonna need to have const mongo client equals require mongodb.mongo client. So, and also const object ID require mongodb.object ID. So both of these are to be able to use MongoDB properly. And in here we'll start with exports, and that's connected to this being module.exports. So export.find messages. This is message. Find message. So, and here we can rec and res. So require response. So request and response, obviously. So, and in here we'll just do the common stuff that we always do. So process.env.db, and we'll use a new URL parser true, and we'll use unified topology true, and then we'll have error and client, and here we'll have if error, then we just console error that error, like so. A lot of this is going to be copy pastable, so we don't have to do this every single time. And we can actually go ahead and add in this though, error while connecting to the database. So, and if we don't get the error, then we can continue. So const board is going to be client.db, and it was message board dot collection boards. And if we have a quick look at my database, we can see that I have some boards, I have some messages, and I have threads. These are the 3 collections I need, and you will as well. You don't necessarily have to name the boards, messages, and threads, but it's advisable that you do, pretty much, to be able to learn which one is which. So in my boards, I will have this one general one, right? But I'll also have some others if this stuff wakes up. So I have the general one. I have a discussion one. I actually have a null one as well, for some reason. I have some messages. This was really slow, so let's not look at that. But we'll continue here. So I have a variable called board. I'll have another one that I'll just call threads. Thread, so. And then we can go ahead and go for board.find1, and this is where we'll see if the board exists or not. So we'll see if I have a board that's called the same thing as rect.params.board. So what we get from the request. And here we can get an error. We can have a board result. And if we have an error, then we just go ahead and console error that. And we can actually write failed on finding board. So, and if we don't get the error, we can have a look here, board result. If that's less than 1, then it means that the board does not exist. So rest.send, sorry, that board does not exist, and apparently we do not create a board. We could do that, obviously. We could go ahead and if there is no board with that name, we just create that board. But that's apparently not part of the project, so I haven't been doing that. You can if you want to. I just wanted to be done with FreeCodeCamp when I was doing this project. So I was trying to do it properly, but not anything else really. So else, if the board result is not less than 1, then it exists, and then we can go ahead and look for a thread within that board. So find one, and we'll look for the ID of object ID rec.query.thread ID. So, and here we can also have an error, and we'll have a thread result. And if we have the error, then we handle that somehow. So we'll just write that failed on finding, that's not how you spell that, thread and error, or so. And otherwise, if thread result is less than 1, remember this is messages, so we have to check for both the board and the thread to be able to post a message or find a message. This is fine, but the same goes for post or update or delete. So if thread result is less than 1, then we go rest.send, and sorry, that thread does not exist. And we do the client.close. So if it does exist, then we can do something. And since we're just finding stuff here, we can just go ahead and do rest.send thread result and close the client. So that's the find message endpoint. We'll also need an add message. Yes. And a lot of this is going to be copy pasteable, as I said. So we can actually go ahead and go to, let's see, we can grab everything down here actually. So everything there, just grab and paste in here. So we're connecting to the Mongo client and we're creating these variables. And once we've done that, we need to customize some stuff. Can actually go ahead and do this as well though. So we have that, and one of those, we have one of those. So, and that's just to be able to make sure that we have the right amount of parentheses. Here we'll have a thread.findOne. Wait a second. Oh yeah, thread.findOne, and we don't have to look for the board here actually, because we're just posting something. So we're starting with like just looking for the thread itself, just to make sure that we don't have a thread with that name. Technically, if you want to be a bit serious about this, you can have multiple threads with the same name if they're on different boards. But since we don't actually create a new board if that thread, if the board doesn't exist, there is a lot of stuff we could do around this that we don't do, which is kind of good to just take note of, because this, while this app we're building is somewhat complicated, it could get a lot more complicated as well, and we're not doing that. So we'll look for a thread with the same ID as rec.body.thread ID, and then we go for error and out the result. And if error, we console error this as sorry, no such thread exists. So looks like so, and I think I confused myself, but this is obviously for messages still, so we're not posting a thread, we're posting a message. But we're doing that to specific threads, so it doesn't actually matter. And that's that's really why we need to check if the thread exists, but that's why we only need to check if one specific named thread exists, because there can be several with the same name across multiple boards, because we don't allow that. So here we just check for a thread with the thread ID, post a message to, and if we get the error, we handle that. If you don't get the error, then we can go for let current date be equal to new date dot to isostring, so dot substring 0 to 10, and this is a useful line to know because this is just getting a standard date like year, month, and day. And if you're American, you the wrong stuff because you're writing it the wrong way. It has to be you. Anyway, we have current time here, and that's the same essentially. So to isostring to time string, obviously, since it's time, and then we do substring 0 to 8 instead. So, and then we go let new reply be equal to, and that's an object where we have a thread, and that's just going to be thread rected body dot thread ID. So we post a message to the right thread, and then we have a message which is going to be rected body dot text. So whatever we wrote in the form. Then we have delete password, and this one is weird, but yeah, we don't have users for this message board. So in order to delete messages, you get a delete message that you need to save for every message that you post, so that you need to save that somewhere and find it whenever you want to delete the message that you have posted. It doesn't make sense, but this is obviously for learning purposes, so that's what we're doing here. And then we have created on, and created on, so it's going to be a template literal, a template string, where we have a current date and we have a current time, which is why we save those as variables. We could actually save these as const, so I don't know why I've used that. And we'll also have reported false, and this is something that's important that we add, because when we add the report thread, we need to be able to find this instance of the object and change it to true. So that's why we add it here, and it's going to be false by default. So here we go for message.insert one, and message is going to be this is not right. We don't want board here. We want this to be message instead, and this is obviously going to be messages. We still want the threads though, so that's right. This one is a bit changed. So insert one, and we'll insert new reply. And here we don't really care about if the message has been posted before or not. We just add this to the messages database, because it's going to be connected to, well, first of all, it's going to get its own unique ID from Mongo. That's fine itself, but the message itself can be the exact same thing. That's fine, and even if it is, it's going to have a unique ID and it's going to be connected to a thread. So we don't really care about if one exists already or not. Then we go for thread.find1 and update, and this is how you add a message to a thread. You don't you post a new thread or anything. You actually use the existing thread and just update that. So here we go for ID is object ID and directed body.thread ID, and then we'll have another object here, and can you see that for readability? In here we'll go ahead and add, confuse myself a bit, I have a push, and here we'll go replies is new reply, so, and we'll set bumped on so current date and current current time. So we push this to an array, which if we go into my threads here, we can see that we have an array here, and obviously we haven't actually gotten here. We'll get here soon in another video, but here we have an array with replies, and here we post the messages. So that's how that's going to work. And when you do that, you bump the thread, because the thread has a time when it's posted, but when you post a message to that thread, it's actually been used a new date, so we update that by using set. Yeah, so then after this we just go for this is convenient, you don't have to do this, but there is a redirect function you can use, and if you've posted a message, then it can be kind of good to just go back to the rec.params.board, and you actually need to do this to make that work. So, and then we just go for client.close. So, with that, we should be able to post a. Why do I have a outer? This. I should probably use that. What did I use? See, error. All right. I forgot one. We are missing one if statement, so we'll just do this. So if outer result is less than 1, then we need to handle that, obviously. So rest of send, sorry. So this message that we have here should be down here instead. So, and we did client close there. This one should be actually this should not be a console error. Rest of send, sorry, I confused myself. So this one should be a error. No, error while searching for thread and error. So, oops. So I have to do this as well. So there we go. We can't try this yet because we don't have anywhere to post this message. But once we have a thread, we can post that message. And since I actually have threads already, I could try this, I think, but let's wait with that. But that's enough for this video. I'll see you in the next one, where we'll add the report and remove thread. I'm just gonna look at this. This one ends nowhere, right? That's not great. Let's end that. Like, see, we have that else ends there. We have that one that's connected to nothing. Okay. What's the else? And that's oh, there you go. Yeah, in the next video we'll go ahead and do the report and remove message. Yeah, see you then. Bye.